Obviously, AI is omnipresent. It's something that a lot of people are curious about. And certainly with Redfin, what are the ways that you're using it either behind the scenes or in the product or plan to?
Well, the two primary use cases are the Redfin estimate, where we figure out what a home is worth, and then listing recommendations. And if you think about the most important questions in a person's life, where should I live and how much should I pay, are pretty high up there. And using AI to guide people to the right home has been instrumental. So the reason that Redfin has the best ratio of daily users to monthly users is we're just better at using AI to engage people and say, here's a listing you might like, here's a neighborhood you ought to consider that people hadn't thought of before. But now what we're doing is really using AI to figure out what follow-ups to send to a customer. So because we know what they're doing on our website and we know what they're doing with our real estate agents, we can say, this customer's looked at a listing 15 times this morning. You ought to call them up because they probably need to make an offer. And when the customer gets that call or gets that text message, she says, well, how did you know that? And that's because of AI. So if we can drive better close rates where people who connect with our agents on the website end up more likely to end up in their dream home, well, then we can invest more money in acquiring customers. We can invest more money in our real estate agents. It just turns a gigantic flywheel. And that's what really drew Rocket to Redfin, because they understood that we had deeper data about every step in the process.
When you look 5 or 10 years out, what
Yeah.
do you think the impact of AI could be in real estate?
Well, I just think it's going to make real estate agents much more productive. So I know you had Joe on here last week where he talked about AI replacing many real estate agents. And I am one step more skeptical about that because I feel like I am the worldwide expert, even more than Joe Lonsdale, on which technologies can replace an agent and when an agent can't be replaced, because I tried so hard to do it. And still, we are trying to do it in some sense where we want our agents doing their highest and best use activities instead of doing all the baloney
Minutia.
work.
Yeah.
But, you know, I had all these investors at different stages when Redfin was going public, when we were doing non-deal roadshows as a public company, obviously at the venture stage, who would ask the question, when is AI going to replace a real estate agent? And they always assumed that it was just inevitable. And those same people, whenever they were about to make an offer on a home, would call me and say, hey, I need your advice about something. And I said, well, why don't you just consult ChatGPT instead of me? But they just needed to hear it from a human being.
Yeah.
And maybe what really needs to change isn't just the quality of the AI, but consumer behavior and their trust in the AI. My wife is an oncologist. She's an oncology researcher and an oncologist. And it's the same thing where people ask her, when is AI going to replace a doctor? But when you find out you've got 4 months to live and maybe you should try some experimental drug, you want to talk to an oncologist. And so the
Right.
same people who ask those questions a year later, 4 years later, are calling because they have an uncle who just got diagnosed.
Yeah.
And I just think there's some high stakes situations where people always want to talk to other people.